STCS they've done a phenomenal job in terms of helping people in many different ways all across in the country, and they're part of this armed healthcare professionals and front store and first line supervisors that are doing terrific things to bring our country and build an great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate you being here today and with us today and 45 days ago. We're here on the Walgreens in the U.S. I just want to start off like you, thanking the over 200,000 Walgreens team members who are in stores every day all across America, taking care of our patients and our customers, giving them essential daily needs, the prescriptions, obviously, that they need, and even COVID testing while we're here. We also announced today we'll be expanding our testing capabilities across all states, including Puerto Rico. We'll be able to triple the volume that we do now in partnership with our lab partners. We're excited to be able to do that. We're really excited with the public-private partnership that we have here because that's what enabling us to do this, and we look forward to working with the additional states to get these sites up and running as fast as possible. As a pharmacist, I just want to say one quick thing. I'm really proud to be part of this profession, and not just Walgreens pharmacists and pharmacy employees, but all of them across grocery, mass, independence. You're really doing what you should be doing, what you went to school for, to help patients, counseling them on their medicines and helping them understand the problems that we're facing. Pharmacy is right here in it with everyone together in the community. So we look forward to being part of the testing like we are now. So we'll see what that might look like in the future and eventually treat them when the vaccine does come. So thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We appreciate all you're doing to get America back to work and doing it safely. I represent Kroger. My name is Rodney McMullen, and I am so proud of our nearly 500,000 associates that are doing everything every day to keep customers safe and our associates safe. And one of the things that we were able to do is provide the basic practices we're doing. We call it Blueprint, and it's the things that all of us can learn from on how to get America back working. We also announced earlier today, continue to accelerate our practice on testing. We are actively engaged in 6 states. In the next couple of weeks, we'll take that to 12 states, and the number of tests that we do continues to grow faster than that. Together, we will win. Together, we will solve this problem and move on. America is always great. Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Doug McMillan. I'm a Walmart associate, and I too would like to start by thanking our associates for everything that they're doing in our stores, Sam's Clubs, distribution centers, and in our e-commerce fulfillment centers. They've been inspiring and continue to have a can-do attitude and step up. It's much appreciated. We started 45 days ago, as did everyone else, and we've been operating sites for a while now. We're now up to 20 sites across 11 states. By the end of next week, we'll be to 45, and by the end of May, we'll be at 100. We also, a few weeks ago, Vice President Pence and I were in a distribution center in Virginia, a food distribution center. He was kind enough to come and thank our associates for us there, which is much appreciated. And the President and Vice President were speaking on the phone about surgical gowns, and the President asked if we could put in an order for millions of surgical gowns, and we don't normally buy those, so I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to do that. But I'd like to thank our apparel team and McKesson in particular for partnering with us. We've been able to, in the month of April, secure an additional 2.5 million surgical gowns, and by the end of May, we'll have an additional 6 million available to help. So thank you for the opportunity to serve and for being here. All right, the President inviting several CEOs of companies that have been assisting in the coronavirus pandemic response, and this event, of course, will continue. We invite you to watch it live on our website, conditionnow.com. You can continue to stream it. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break here, back in 60 seconds. When times like these feel scary or uncertain, know that you can always turn to the Word of God to ease your mind and restore your sense of faith and purpose. Everything seems to be rapidly changing all around us. However, God said in His Word, I am the Lord and I do not change. Know that comfort that His Word, His promises, and His power to save us never changes. Have you trusted your soul to that unchanging saving power? Join 10 Day Ministries this Sunday at 11 a.m. to hear more about this week's message of Unchangeable God, only on WSMH 566.
Corn again or a different vegetable? Are you sure? We only have 2 left. I did order from Meyer at Kroger. I might be able to get back on there and order something different for Ed. I feel like Dad's stressing out and I wanted him to pick the time to eat so that he had enough time to do what he needs to do.
He doesn't get hungry, so there's.
No, but I said, what time do you want? I'm not. And I'm like, I know, but it's 6 o'clock enough time for you to do what you need to do for your meeting at 7. But now I feel like he's stressing out. So Nick, I usually open it and then drain some out of here before I pour in the other thing. They smell good. The potatoes.
Probably oversized, but I always took off the gross parts and then
Season them.
spray
Okay,
oil
good.
on it and then something.
Perfect.
And aluminum foil.
Perfect.
Can you go to our website, STCS.org, and click on the live stream and see what you get? That might be dead because you gotta do it
What's dead?
from my screen. I can pull out because I'm live streaming whatever's on this computer right now.
Okay. But why is it dead? I don't understand.
Mute, not needed. Sorry.
Mute. Okay. Jeez. I'm like, you broke the computer?
I need to mute myself. You're live streaming over the top.
Over which one? So
Hi, Nick. Can you hear me? You should only hear me. You shouldn't see me because I've not displayed on that other computer.
Can you hear me? Oh, that's Jim. Can you hear me? Oh, you're muted right now. Jim. Oh, you're muted right now. No, I'm talking to Jim Mitchell online. I didn't know. How do I get to YouTube? I didn't know. How do I get to YouTube?
Go to our website and click on the live link because we're on right now. Go to our website and click on the live link
because they wanted me to keep an eye on the YouTube.
Go to our
Because
website.
they wanted me to keep an eye on the
where it
YouTube.
says live link. Go to our website.
And that'll be the
click
YouTube
on
version versus
it
this
where it says
version,
live
right?
link. Right. The
And that'll be
agenda's
the
up there right
YouTube
now
version
with our
versus
voice
this
over the
version,
top
right?
of it. Right. The agenda's up there right now with our voice over the top
Okay.
of it. Mine muted.
Okay. Hey, it can wait until
That's why I had
we
mine
meet
muted.
Wednesday. Hey, it can
But
wait
Keith
until
Bartarian?
we meet Wednesday.
Yes.
But Keith Bartarian, if we get 60 boards or more, if we get 60 boards or more, 3,000 a board. They can get it to us for about 3,000 installation would take it to about 200,000 to 22. Plus installation would take it to about 200,000 to 22. Bunch these all together because they're trying to bunch these all together. Like a couple districts right now that are allowing them to go in and do the install right now.
Okay.
That are
Yeah, we'll
allowing
have to
them
talk
to
to
go
it
in
later
and do
because
the
right now you are
install.
live streaming this over YouTube. Yeah, we'll have to talk to it later because right now
Okay.
you
Well,
are
anyway,
live
just to
streaming
let you
this
know
over
we got a
YouTube.
pretty good price.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, just
close
to
these
let
off
you know
then.
we got a pretty good price.
What's that? Yeah.
I'm gonna close this off then.
Just mute it. What's that?
I'm gonna
The
close this
picture's
out.
not being displayed. If you go to the website, you'll see that the picture's not being displayed. If you go to the website, you'll see that it's just whatever is coming from mine, but the sound is
Right. I just
whatever
want to
is
watch
coming
it
from
through
mine
YouTube
or
though.
from the stream.
Right. I just want to
Okay.
watch it through YouTube though. So I'm gonna close this one out and go back and get the other
Okay.
one.
All right.
So I'm gonna close this one out and
Text
go
me or
back
call
and get
me
the
on
other
my
one.
cell if there's an issue. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Text me or call me on my cell if there's an issue. Just mute it. What's that?
I'm gonna close this out.
Not being displayed. If you go to the website, you'll see that the picture's not being displayed. If you go to the website, you'll see that it's just whatever is coming from mine, but the sound is
Right. I just want to watch
coming
it
from
through
mine
YouTube
or
though.
from the stream.
Right. I just want to watch it through YouTube though. So I'm gonna close this one out and go back and get the other one.
All right.
So I'm gonna close this one out and go
Text me or
back
call
and
me
get the
on my
other one.
cell if there's an issue. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Text me or call me on my cell if there's an issue.
Switch over. Switch over. Wallpaper out of the picture. Yep. have a very innocuous background. Now I have a very innocuous background. This over. This over. Now I have a very innocuous background. Now I have a very innocuous background.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Mike. Hey, Mike, we're currently broadcasting sound, but not. Hey, Mike, we're currently just broadcasting sound, but once we get everybody connected, just the agenda. So just be careful what you say from now until when it starts. Just be careful what you say from now until when it starts.
You have me muted, right?
I muted you just for that fact.
You have me muted. Yeah, okay, I'll go ahead and
I muted you just for that fact. We're good, and everybody else should be
I'll go ahead
connecting
and
here
remute
soon.
it.
I just sent out an email. Okay, we're good, and everybody else should be connecting here soon. I just sent out an email. Mike, we're currently just broadcasting sound, but once we get everybody connected, just the agenda. So just be careful what you say from now until when it starts. Be careful what you say from now until when it starts.
You have me muted, right?
I muted you just for that fact.
You have me muted. Yeah, okay, I'll go ahead and
I muted you just for that fact. We're good, and everybody else should be connecting here soon. I just sent out an email. Okay, we're good, and everybody else should be connecting here soon. I just sent out an email.
Hi, Jan, how are you?
Hi there, how are ya?
Hi, Jan, how are you? Pretty good.
Hi there, how are ya?
I'm pretty good.
Excited to get this going. Excited
Yeah,
to
it's
get this
been a
going.
while.
It has been. How's your
Yeah,
family?
it's been a while.
It has
We're doing
been.
good.
How's your family?
We're doing good. Teresa's gonna come home. We're doing good. Friday, so we're doing good. Teresa's gonna come home and mom's for the Friday, so 5 weeks or so. She's been at her mom's for the
Has her
past
mom been
5
ill?
weeks or so. Well, mom has dementia.
Has her mom been
so-
ill?
Well, mom has dementia.
Remember, anything you say now can be heard live on YouTube. Remember, anything you say now can
Okay,
be
thanks,
heard
Jim.
live on YouTube.
Okay,
We
thanks,
just
Jim.
can't see you yet. We just can't see you yet.
Has her mom been ill? Has her mom been ill?
Remember, anything you say now can be heard live on YouTube. Remember, anything you say now can be heard live on YouTube.
Okay, thanks,
We just
Jim.
can't see you yet. We just can't see you yet.
David. David.
Because your mic's not on. We can't hear you, David. Because your mic's not on. We can't hear you, David.
How's that?
Good. Good to see you.
Now how's everybody doing? How's that?
Good. Good to see you.
Now how's everybody doing?
Good.
Well, at least 3 of us were able to figure out the technology.
That's right.
Well, at least 3 of us were able to figure out the technology.
That's right.
Now I can see Jan and Michael, but I see there's a couple more people on. So I can see Jan and Michael, but I see there's a couple more people on. So I've got to figure out the Brady
I
Bunch
can't
mode
see
here.
them either, David.
So Mike Waldy
I
and Mary
can't see them
Dorr
either,
are
David.
there. It's so Mike Waldy and Mary Dorr are there. It's a little tricky because you get a bar at the bottom. It shows your mute button in your phone, but that tends to. It shows your mute button in your phone, but that tends to.
But do you see their picture, Mike?
The way it is. No, not right now.
But do you see their
They
picture,
don't
Mike?
have video turned on. No, not right now.
Okay.
Jim just
They don't have
Shy.
video turned on.
Gotcha.
Jim
They're
just
shy, huh, Jim?
Shy.
They're shy, huh, Jim?
I don't plan on participating, so I would just turn mine off. But yeah, I don't plan on participating, so I would just turn mine off. The sound right now is live. Yeah, anything you part of the screen. The sound right now is live. That right now. It's part of the screen. Right now, you're just seeing the board presenting that right now. So right now, you're just seeing the board. Be careful what you say right now, and don't start your official meeting. So be careful what you say right now.
Yeah, I asked Jim. I told Jim I'd give him about a 30-second notice before we start the meeting. I told Jim I'd give him about a 30-second notice before we start the meeting, and he'll turn on the live
stream. That is
stream.
about the delay. It's about 30 seconds, I think, from when we say it. And that is about the delay. So if somebody flips up, I got about 30 seconds to reach over and end the stream. Flips up, I got about 30 seconds to reach over and end the stream.
So you can't flip it, but you can just end it.
Yeah.
So you can't flip it, but you can just end it.
Yeah. So the only response you've had so far, David, was just the only asking how to get onto the live stream. So far, David.
And I emailed her and gave her the heads up of how.
The live stream. All right, I hit her too.
And I emailed her and gave her the heads up of how.
All right, I hit her too. So.
Okay.
So we won't necessarily know who's watching the live stream. So we won't necessarily know who's watching the live stream like we would if they were in the meeting.
No.
It says there's 3 viewers right now, but that's probably me. My son. Viewers right now, but that's probably me, my son, and Steve.
Hi, Bruce. Turn on your microphone. Hi, Bruce. Turn on your microphone.
That's why we're practicing, right?
I did the same thing. That's why
we're
everybody's
practicing,
laughing.
right? Oh, very good.
I did the same thing. That's why everybody's laughing.
Could we have Mary Dorr? We have Mary Dorr.
Mary and Mike Waldy are in the wings.
Mike Waldy. There's Mike
Mary and Mike
Colucci's
Waldy are
chair.
in the wings.
Oh, there he is. Waldy. There's Mike Colucci's
I'm gonna
empty
join
chair.
him in the wings as soon as things get started. I'm going to join him in the wings as soon as things get started.
That's why we're practicing, right? First, allow me to introduce you to my 1975 wallpaper. Elderly couple that lived here before us. Monica and I are going room by room remodeling. We haven't started on the old dining room. Monica and I are going room by room
after Joe
remodeling.
Burrow's parents drapes, there's no, it's
Hey,
fine. After Joe Burrow's
yeah,
parents
that was
drapes,
classic, wasn't
there's
it?
no, it's fine.
Yeah,
Bruce, you'll notice
classic,
that I
wasn't it?
chose a new location.
I like
Bruce,
that.
you'll notice
Yeah,
that I
very
chose a
good.
new location. Well, it's,
I like
here,
that.
what you find
Yeah,
out is your
very good.
shades. Well, it's,
Ooh,
here, what you find
There
out
you
is your
go.
shades.
I like that. Ooh,
There you
very
go.
nice.
Now if I get
I
them
like
to go back
that.
down. Now if I get them to go back down.
I just pulled out an old DI PVC. I just pulled out an old frame and threw a blanket. DI PVC
There you go.
backdrop frame and threw a blanket over it.
Well, I have
There
my
you go.
curtain. Hopefully nobody minds.
That looks very nice.
Well, I have my curtain. Hopefully
How
nobody
have you been,
minds.
Jan? That looks very
I've been
nice.
well, thank you.
Have you? Everybody safe?
Jan?
Grandkids are good?
I've been well,
Everybody's
thank
safe,
you.
grandkids
Have
are
you?
good.
Everybody's
Oh,
safe?
there's
Grandkids are
Janine.
good?
Everybody's safe, grandkids are good. Oh, there's Janine.
And Mary Ann.
Mary?
It's cold in here. All right.
And Mary Ann.
Mary?
It's cold in here. All right. Go get your blanket. No. I'll show you a pillow. Go get your blanket. No.
Tony Duncan.
I need a
Hi,
pillow.
Tony.
It's really cold in
Hi,
here.
Tony.
Tony
Hey, give me a
Duncan.
second. Some reason I
Hi,
gotta get my
Tony.
video going.
Hi,
I was working
Tony.
yesterday. Hey, give me a second. Some reason I gotta get my video going. I was working yesterday.
How's Mary Ann doing?
Um,
How's Mary Ann
finals this
doing?
week all done. So I've got
Really?
finals this week. 90 students panicking about their papers. I've got
I
90
bet.
students panicking about their papers if they want me to pass
I
them.
bet. That's right.
I'm taking cash if they want me to pass them. Here, you can
That's
see that
right.
in Mike Colucci. And here, that's a big. Here, you can see that in Mike Colucci. That's a
You
big.
get a lot of papers to
For
grade.
you.
You're welcome.
Oh, yeah. I'm giving
You
them
get a
all
lot of
C's because
papers
it's
to
easier to
grade.
make a C than an A. I'm giving them all C's because it's easier to make a C than an A.
This is all
With an
being
A, you got
broadcast, just so you know. Marianne,
Oh, thank you so much.
it's all being broadcast, just so you know.
Not the picture,
Oh,
just
thank
the
you so
sandwich.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Where are
Not
you
the
going to be
picture,
working
just
next
the
year?
sandwich.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Where are you
I'm
going to be
retiring.
working next year?
The
I'm
YouTube
retiring.
stream's not on until 7 o'clock. The YouTube stream's not on until
Say
7
it again,
o'clock.
David. YouTube not
YouTube
until
stream's
7.
not on until 7 o'clock.
Say it again, David. YouTube not
YouTube
until
stream's
7.
not on until 7 o'clock.
All right, I got my video going. Good. All right, I got my video going.
Hey,
I
Jim
tested
Mitchell.
with Eric this afternoon, so
Hey,
I
Jim
tested
Mitchell.
with Eric this afternoon, so
Jim Mitchell,
he
how are
should be
those
joining us.
computers that are on that? Jim Mitchell, how are those? I don't know if it's a public sales site that you sent over on Friday. I don't know if it's a public sales site that you sent over on Friday.
Yeah, that's basically what we've been
The computers to buy.
purchasing off the last couple of years. Basically what we've been
Okay.
purchasing off the last couple of years.
Carly needs a new one. I might call you and get some more information about them.
there's
Carly
that.
needs a new one. I
Me
might
too.
call you and get
I
some
thought
more
you were going to ask
information
about the
about them.
walleye. Okay.
Me too.
Okay,
I thought
so
you were going to ask
I
about the
go to my
walleye.
cooler out in the garage today to get
Those
a
were good.
bottle of water. I go to my cooler out in the garage today to get a bottle of water. If he doesn't know I know it, I might put it in his pillow. I don't know. If he doesn't know I know it, I might put it in his pillow. I don't know.
All right. Which is going to come first, 7 o'clock or Eric?
Eric by
going to
about
come
15
first, 7
seconds.
o'clock or Eric?
Eric by about 15 seconds.
What if that's how they talk about us too?
Oh, they did. I know they were, so.
What if that's how they talk about us too?
Oh, they did. I know they were, so. Okay. We're keeping that in mind for merit pay.
Hi,
Hi.
How's it going? Living the dream,
Hi.
baby.
How's it going? Oh, yeah.
Living the dream, baby. How'd the
Oh,
first
yeah.
week go, you think, all right? How'd the
I
first week go, you think, all right?
I was hoping for it to go well, and I was hoping for it to go well, and I think it went very well. Very little technical difficulties even. Everybody pretty quiet. Technical difficulties even. Everybody pretty quiet. I was pleasantly surprised with how our first week went because I've heard absolute horror stories from other districts. Because I've heard absolute horror stories from other districts. For that, and just on the ready to preparing for that, and we just really didn't need to. On the ready to troubleshoot,
I'm going to be
and we
teaching
just
a
really
spring
didn't need
class
to.
at Delta. And I'm going to be teaching a spring class at Delta. And I've got 18 kids in row today. It's like, it starts in about 2.5 weeks. I wrote a note today. You really have to be, starts in about 2.5 weeks. Because it's very easy. You really have to be just on TV and not do the work. Because it's very easy just to sit in front of the TV and not do the work. I've been really we went out on week 10. And my students who were not doing well before week 10, and the students who were not doing well before week 10 are the students that I'd say the majority of the kids took it seriously. 5 weeks, but I'd say the majority of the kids being much more lenient in terms of when they can get things in. Being much more lenient in terms of when they can get things in. I'm very, very proud of the efforts that they made. But I'm very, very proud of the efforts
That's
that
kind
they
of how
made.
we're feeling. Yeah.
This looks like Hollywood
That's kind of how we're
Squares.
feeling.
I'll take potpourri for 200. This looks like Hollywood Squares. I'll take potpourri for 200, Alex.
There's Eric. There he is.
15 seconds.
There's Eric. There he is.
15 seconds.
There he is. All right. There he is.
All right, I'm going off. You can, we can switch over. I'm going off live view if you're ready.
Yeah, turn it on and we'll wait 30 seconds and we'll get started.
If you're ready. Okay.
Yeah, turn it on and we'll wait 30 seconds and we'll get started.
Okay.
Love Tony's phone.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Eric, we can hear you fine.
Can you guys hear me? Cool.
Yeah, Eric, we can hear you fine.
Hey, Eric.
Cool. Hey, Janine. Hey, Marianne.
Yo, what up?
Hey, Janine. Hey, Marianne.
Yo, I think I do like this better than Zoom for some reason. I think I do like this better than Zoom for some reason.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll call to order the regular meeting of the. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll call to order the regular meeting of the 27th Saginaw Township Community Schools Board of Education for April 27th, 2020. And I would ask for roll call first, please.
Tony Duncan.
Here.
Tony Duncan.
Here.
Here.
Janine Collison.
Present.
Here.
Marianne Bird. Janine Coughlin.
Here. Present.
David Bird.
Here.
Here.
Mike Colucci. David Jaffe.
Here.
Eric Smith. Here.
So we're just going to proceed, and so everybody will be going on. We're meeting on the Google Meet platform. So everybody's here. We're meeting on this Google Meet platform stream. The public is able to view this meeting via YouTube stream. That's linked at the district website. We don't know if we have 1 or 1,000 org.
David Jaffe.
We don't know if we have 1 or 1,000 will be going on in the background. So we're just going to proceed to approve the agenda going on in the background. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes.
Any discussion?
Jan Collison. Second.
Roll call, please. Any discussion?
Smith, yeah. Tony Duncan.
Yes.
Roll call, please. Next on the agenda is
David
approving
Jaffe.
our minutes
Tony
on
Duncan.
March 23rd.
Janine
March
Coughlin.
23rd
David
meeting.
Jaffe.
We had 2 meetings that night, a regular meeting and a closed meeting. And I'm going to ask that these be approved separately because we have one member who was not at the entirety of the closed meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's start with the regular meeting of March 23rd.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is approving our minutes of March 23rd. Next on the agenda is approving our minutes of March 23rd, the regular meeting and the closed meeting. We have 2 meetings that night, the regular meeting and the closed meeting. Member who was not at the ask that these be approved separately because we had one member. Let's start with the regular meeting of March 23rd. So let's start with the regular meeting of March. Motion to approve those minutes?
Marianne Bird.
Yeah, I move that we
Motion to approve
approve
those
the
minutes?
regular meeting minutes of March 23rd. I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes of March 23rd, 2020. Support.
Roll call,
Eric
please.
Smith, yes.
Any discussion?
Mike Colucci.
And next is the minutes of the closed meeting of the
Jan
same date, March
Collison.
23rd.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve those
Marianne
minutes?
Bird. Jan Collison.
Yes.
Janine Coughlin.
I'll
Marianne
make
Bird.
a motion to approve the
David
minutes
Jaffe.
of the March
Jan
23rd
Coughlin.
closed session meeting.
Tony Duncan. David Jaffe.
Support.
Yes.
Eric Smith,
Any
yes. Tony
discussion?
Duncan.
Yes.
And next is the minutes of the
Eric Smith,
closed
yes.
meeting of the same date, March
Eric Smith,
23rd.
yes.
Next
Mike
is the minutes of
Colucci.
the closed meeting of the same date, March 23rd. Is there a motion to approve
Jan
those
I'll
minutes?
make a motion
Yes.
to approve the minutes of the March
Janine
23rd
Coughlin.
closed I'll make a
session
motion to approve the minutes
Marianne
of the
Bird.
March 23rd closed session
Any
meeting.
discussion?
Tony Duncan.
Support.
Yes.
Roll call again, please. Any
David
discussion? Yes.
Eric Smith, yes.
Roll call
Mike
again,
Colucci.
please. Next, we have our treasurer's report.
Eric Smith, yes. Mike Colucci.
I
Jan
move that the
Collison.
Saginaw
Yes.
Township Board of Education approve the total
Janine Coughlin. Jan
checks,
Collison.
transfers, and
Yes.
wires as
Marianne
presented
Bird.
in the amount of
Janine Coughlin.
$4,513,997.01.
David Jaffe. Tony
Yes.
Duncan.
This amount
Yes.
covers invoices paid
Next,
from
we
March
have our
15th,
treasurer's
2020 through April 22.
next we have our treasurer's report.
2020 payroll. I move that the Saginaw Township Board of Education approve the total checks, transfers, and payments, and sales $997.01. This amount covers
Any discussion?
invoices paid from March 19th, 2020. This amount covers
Roll
invoices
call,
paid
please.
from March 19th, 2020, payroll 2020, and the March 2020 payroll.
Yes.
ACH and sales benefits.
Marianne Bird.
Reimbursement payments and sales tax.
Any
David
discussion?
Jaffe.
Yes?
Support.
Tony Duncan.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Eric Smith, yes. Mike
Okay,
Colucci.
roll call, please.
Yes.
Okay, next on the
Jan
agenda
Collison.
is the approval of
Yes.
the district credit
Yes.
card invoices.
Janine Coughlin. Jan
Because
Collison.
the district
Yes.
Marianne
switched
Bird.
credit
Janine
card
Coughlin.
providers
Yes.
halfway
David
through the
Jaffe.
cycle.
Marianne
We
Bird.
actually have 2 different
Tony Duncan. David
groups
Jaffe.
of
Yes.
credit card
Eric
invoices to be
Smith.
approved.
Tony Duncan.
The
Yes.
first is
Eric
invoice
Smith.
on the
Yes.
agenda is the approval of the district credit card invoices. Next on the agenda is the approval of the district credit card invoices. Credit card providers halfway through the cycle switch. We actually have 2 different credit card providers
Go ahead,
halfway
Eric.
through the cycle. Credit card. We actually
I
have 2
move to approve
different
those invoices.
groups. The first is invoices in the amount of $11,000
For the credit card.
invoices in the amount of $11,000 to change those invoices.
So I just, I move to approve the invoices for the
Go ahead, Eric.
first credit
Can read
card
that.
charge. I move to approve those
Go
invoices
ahead, Eric.
Totaling
I move to approve those
$11,010.75. Any discussion?
for the credit card totaling $11,010.
Go ahead, discussion.
For the credit card. So I just,
No, go ahead
I
and
move
finish,
to
Eric.
approve the invoices for
discussion?
the, I just, I move to
card,
approve the
please.
invoices for the First credit card.
Totaling $11,010.75.
David Jaffe.
Totaling
Yes.
$11,010.75.
Marion Bird,
Support.
$11,010.75. Jan Collison.
Any discussion?
Yes, support.
Mike
Roll
Colucci.
call, please. Any discussion?
Eric Smith.
Roll call, please.
Tony Duncan.
Yes.
David Jaffe. Tony Duncan. Yes.
Yes.
Janine Coughlin. David Jaffe.
Very good. Yes.
Marion Bird. Janine Coughlin.
Next for the second group of credit card invoices in the
Marion
amount
Bird.
of $1,909.80 from Chemical Bank.
Eric
Is there a
Smith.
motion to
Mike
approve those?
Colucci.
I got that. I move that the
Eric
Board of
Smith.
Education approve the district credit card invoices
Yes.
in the amount of
You need to say yes.
$1,909.80.
Yes.
You need to say yes.
Next for the second group of credit card invoices in the amount of discussion. $1,909.80 in the amount of $1,909.80 from Chemical
I
Bank.
move that the Board of
Eric
Education
Smith,
approve
yes.
the district
David
credit card
Jaffe.
invoices.
Yes.
I move that the Board of Education
Jan
approve
Collison,
the $9
Yes.
invoices in the amount of
Janine Coughlin.
$1,909.80.
Marion
Any
Bird.
discussion?
Yes. Support.
Mike
Roll call,
Colucci.
please. Any discussion?
Yes.
Tony Duncan.
Yes.
Roll
This
call,
is
please.
tricky because my Brady Bunch squares keep moving
Tony
around.
Duncan?
David Jaffe.
Yes.
Yes.
Eric Smith.
Jan
Yes.
Collison?
David Jaffe.
Yes.
Yes.
Janine Coughlin.
Anybody
Jan
not been
Collison.
polled?
Yes.
Marianne Bird. Coughlin.
Yes.
Oh, did I forget me again? Mike Colucci.
No,
Marianne
you're
Bird.
good.
Yes.
You were second.
Oh, I thought this is tricky because my
Okay.
Brady Bunch
Yeah.
squares keep moving around. So this is tricky because my Brady
All
Bunch
right, I'll
squares
turn it
keep
over
moving
to
around.
Mr. Martin for the superintendent's report. Anybody not been
So
polled?
before we jump into some action items, I had a couple
Anybody
of
not been polled?
updates to give you that
No,
I
you're
thought
good.
you may find
You
of
were second.
Oh, did I
interest.
forget me again? I thought,
First of all is our
No,
food
you're good.
I
distribution
think that's
program.
everybody. Oh,
It's been going
Okay. All right, I'll turn it
amazingly
over to Mr.
successful.
Martin for the
I
superintendent's
really
report.
appreciate
All right, I'll turn it
the
over
work
to
that
Mr. Martin
before
for
we
the
jump
superintendent's
into some
report.
action items, I had a couple of food service
before we
jump into some action items, I had a couple of updates to give you. First of all is our food distribution total meals served by Saginaw Township for our amazingly successful. It's been 94,000 amazingly successful. I really so over 94,000 when you has put into that today. Two-day food service team has put into that morning. So that's two-day total meals served by Saginaw Township. I'm so pleased with our team and total meals served by Saginaw Township for our section 148. It comes out to 5,000, over 94,000 plus we're serving Mondays, Wednesdays, so over 94,000 plus whatever we serve a day. So that's that's pretty phenomenal. Plus, if you recall, with our team, that's pretty phenomenal. When you break that down with our session Valley, so those all when you break that down together in our session, and they're driven over to their. So we're serving Mondays, 5,000 Fridays, pumping out. So we're serving Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, as far as I'm concerned. And plus, Mark Avent has also managing all the volunteers. Plus, we're also providing all the meals for Swan Valley. Volunteers. We're also providing all the meals for Swan Valley. Over so those all get you put together in our facility. And second of all, one of the issues amount of, and they're trying to attack as an administrative council, surprising amount of Mark Avent has been, as far as I know, the volunteers. Heritage. Mark Avent has been managing all the volunteers. Fortunately, has been. We got word late on Thursday night, and we were able to get word out. I appreciate that. Second of all, one of the issues that we're currently Friday, our last. Second of all, one of the issues we're currently trying to pick up administrative council. We do know that there are kids that still have things pick up when we close. Fortunately, we're left in school. We got now that we got on a Thursday night, so we're able to get word out. We got word soon after Thursday night, so we're back up to that Friday, our last after Thursday night. Many of our kids were that Friday, our last very specific. Many of our students are not allowed things in lockers and desks, but we do know that we need to be able to manage all this. Hopefully the worst of it. We're putting a plan together to get hopefully the worst of it. Back up. We're putting a plan together to get our parents back up the executive board. Going very specific. We've got some ideas of some executive order, very specific. That so we need to be able to manage all this. The third thing we need to be able to manage all this and figure out without attitude. We receive very positive feedback on all the staff without attitude and challenge to our first week the continuation of the learning plan challenges. Obviously, took a tremendous amount of work to put that together. And I was just telling Jamie today how much I appreciated we've got board members you asked weighing in. Third thing, we've got 2 weeks ago from both the staff and parents gave me some really good feedback that I was able to continue to massage into that plan. Obviously, that took a tremendous amount of work to put that together. Obviously, that took a tremendous amount of work questions about specifics. And I was just telling Jamie today how much I appreciated board members 2 weeks ago prepared to say weighing in the plan, gave me some really good feedback ago. I was able to look at the plan to massage into that Chromebooks versus paper packets. How did that massage into that plan and about our social-emotional? There were a couple of questions about specifics. Been working on a couple of things. There were a couple of questions about specifics. She's prepared to say a few words.
So for our social emotional, the executive order was very specific that we really had to take into consideration the level of stress that such an unusual learning environment would cause for everybody involved, parents, students. So for our social emotional, the executive order was very specific that we really had in different ways take into consideration that we really had level of stress rolled out in consideration in the economy with level of stress and environment would cause for all of those things add parenting environment would cause for everybody learning in the home as well. Guardians, so today different ways going through one of our first especially as different ways rolled out and things have happened in the economy as social workers and our counselors in the economy with jobs just continuing to work on sharing ideas all of those having it learning in the home as well to make sure that all of our families are learning and supported as well. One of our first meetings, whatever their needs today, I kind of have this proactive approach, and then we also have social workers and our counselors is and we're just continuing to work on sharing ideas and having it ready with resources on sharing ideas all of our families are supported the district to make sure that all of our families are kind of have this proactive and whatever their community services that are available in this proactive approach, and then we also have the proactive crisis and elements that we are ready with resources. Everybody is just about everybody is doing some sort of resources, video resources and dealing with emotions that resources having right services that are available in anxiety, how to deal with those maybe services that are available appropriate at the grade level that they're one of the things that is proactive is everybody is just about everybody is doing some sort of everybody is just about everybody is doing and then they share their links to those resources with maybe having right now stress and anxiety that they're using whether it be right now all developmentally grades or how to deal with those things that's all developmentally have resources readily available on links. Everybody is they also have resources readily available on links and then they share their links to those resources with teachers and then they share their links to those resources on the web page that are being updated on a regular basis they're using whether it be CSAT, the earlier grades happening and those everybody is reaching out to those participating in wellness calls for support. Everybody also have things like wellness calls for families, parents, and students. We also have social emotional options on the web page. Different demographics on a regular basis. On the web page that are being updated and that is still happening. And those people are reaching out to support is still happening. And those teachers are reaching out to what happens if I have a friend teachers, parents. We also have we're working on getting that out to those teachers, parents, and students demographics to one of them is those what do I do in a mental health crisis and that would help one of them is what do I do in a mental health crisis and that would include or if there's a lot of it even goes down to what happens if or I have a friend it even goes down to what happens if I have a friend that we're struggling and so we're working on getting that out to homeless is also we're making sure that we're not letting those is also we're making sure that we're not letting there's a lot of transition every building we can meeting there's a lot of transition we're really doing and today we came together as a district with the social workers, general ed, special ed, and then the counselors as well. Again, having a lot of try to work towards as much consistency having a lot of where we came together as a district. Everybody today was building has had phenomenal job of social emotional learning. And today we came together as a district for social emotional learning. When it comes to today, we came together as a district and then the social workers, general ed, we're going to try to work and then the counselors as well. Across the again, we're going to try to work towards as much consistency across the district. Phenomenal job of everything responsibly can to support our job of especially when it comes to mental health and to support our families, especially especially when it comes to mental health that might come and any possible mental health crisis.
One of the things that I've tried to do is, have them think, oh no, another email. One of the things that I've been sending, I might probably do a little bit different. One of the things that I might maybe do a little bit different, but I've got thinking of you, and we've been communicating mostly via email. We've been communicating mostly via YouTube that would make them think, oh no, not an email. So I've been sending, have them think, oh no, not another email. So I've been sending, and because I think two of those are four times a week. Thinking of you, and missing out on those are doom and doom. Thinking of you, and that might be a positive thing. They can look up on YouTube that would make them bored, or at least smile, or on YouTube that would make them something at least smile, or think just something. Just if you can listen to the news too much. I had a PS on listen to the news too much, and that might be a positive thing. Perhaps I don't even know if the board might be a positive thing, but it doesn't take a whole message or send a message from your end, just a message at one time.
Yeah, we're trying to keep in mind the way kids get information right now. So we're putting it on a learning platform. We're sending out emails. We're also using a lot of social media, and things like that have really gone out with social media, a lot of Twitter and Facebook pages. Our high school created a Facebook page. Yeah, we're trying to keep in mind the way kids get information right now. Students and parents, the way the learning kids get information right now. So trying to get things out on a learning platform. We're sending out emails. So yeah, I agree. A lot of social media and things like that have really gone out with social media, a lot of regular conversations sometimes, especially when things are stressful at home. Page specifically to get information out to some high schools, students and parents. Facebook's more along the lines of parents, but we're trying to get things out on Twitter as well. So yeah, I agree. Those type of non-academic messages are kids are just craving a regular conversation sometimes, especially when things are stressful at home.
But is that something that the teachers know that they I have a question. I had a teacher send me an email last Friday. I have a touch point with those struggling students at White Pine. It's just a thought. Lunches.
That's a really good point. I can add that to my next staff update.
Of course, yes.
I know there are a lot of teachers doing personal things. I know one of our third grade teachers at Arrowwood did a drive around to all of her classroom kids with a book, a children's book, put it at the end of the driveway with a little snack. That's a really good point. I can add that to my next staff update. So there are a lot of those kinds of things going on. Teachers doing, I haven't heard much personal things. I know one of our third grade teachers at Arrowwood did a drive around to all of her to make sure that they know that that's available with a book, have a children's book, put it at the end of the driveway with a little snack. Good point. And a homemade bookmark Jamie, that she made. Breakdown end up there are a lot of those kinds of things going on. Then I haven't heard much
between
about the food
Chromebook. We figured out about we had planned for
to make sure that they know that
that's
available
if they have
somebody in mind.
The first packet pickup day. And then we figured about 800 were requested at White Pine. We didn't have as many people pick up packets as what they originally requested. So we figured about somewhere around 25% of our students are requesting paper packets picked up at Heritage, and the rest are able to do it through their technology. And then we figured about some families that have asked, could we get a Chromebook, and anybody that didn't have as many people pick up packets as what they originally requested. So we figure about somewhere around 25% of our students are requesting paper packets, and the rest are able to do it through their technology, including some families that have asked, could we get a Chromebook, and anybody that has requested one, we've made sure we got one too.
For us to be 75-25 is a pretty loose estimate. From the ISD surveys of districts, and then we've surveyed our parents. The statewide totals came in around 70% and 72% when it came to those with devices. and those
With
with
the
internet
first week
access.
of learning,
So
we've
for us to
it's
be
in our plan is that
75-25
by
is a pretty
Thursday, if a
loose
student hasn't
estimate.
engaged by
It wasn't
Thursday, then
scientific
we
by any
check on
means, but
them through
it falls
some
kind
type
of in
of
line with where
contact.
the state
So
averages
the
ended up.
like for example, in the high school,
Any
the
idea how
student
many of our
isn't
students are
engaged
simply not
in their
engaged
first
in
hour,
any way?
then the teacher calls the students on their With roster the on their first first week of hour that learning, hasn't been what engaged. it's in our If there's plan a is student that by that hasn't been Thursday, if engaged a and there's a student hasn't concern, then engaged they by might be Thursday, then referred we to check the on them social through worker or some type of counselor. counselor. So by The Thursday, if a student hasn't been like for engaged, example, in the high then we school, try to the student contact them isn't usually by phone. engaged in their first And hour, so then the we teacher haven't calls gotten the an students on their exact roster number on their yet. first We haven't hour that really hasn't looked been at that engaged. from the If first there's a week, student especially that because it was hasn't so been new engaged and we and had there's some a people concern, thinking then
they
they might
wanted
be
a packet
referred
and then they
to
didn't show
the
up to get
social
one and
worker or
all of those kind of
um,
things. So we let
counselor. So
everybody
by
kind of,
Thursday,
the
if a
dust
student
settle
hasn't
a
been
little bit.
engaged before
Then
we
we
have
try
an
to
exact number of
contact
how many
them
are not
usually by
engaged.
phone.
But
From
in
and
an
so
internal
we
standpoint,
haven't gotten an
from what we're hearing from
exact number
teachers,
yet.
even
We
at
haven't
the high
really
school
looked at
level,
that
where we
from the
were
first
wondering,
week, especially because it was so
teenagers
new and we had some people
engage.
thinking they wanted a packet and then they
Teachers are
didn't show up to
pleasantly
get one and
surprised at
all
how
of those
many
kind
of
of
their
things. So we let
students
everybody
are
kind of
engaging
the
in
dust
this.
settle a little bit before we have an exact number of how many are not
All right,
engaged.
thanks, Jamie.
But from
A couple of
an
final announcements
internal
from me.
standpoint,
You
from
probably
what we're
saw
hearing
the
from
senior
teachers,
communication
even
that
at the
went
high
out this
school
morning with some
level, where we were
updates on
wondering
prom, senior honors night, and
teenagers might
commencement.
engage.
We've been getting an awful lot of phone
Teachers
calls,
are
both to
pleasantly
my office
surprised at
and to
how
the high
many
school
of their
office
students are engaging in
about
this.
if there are any more updates on that. And obviously, those things are
All right, thanks, Jamie.
still up in the air with the
Couple of
governor's
final
orders, and we
announcements
have no
from me.
idea what
You
this summer's going to
probably
look
saw
like.
the
So
senior
if you
communication
didn't
that
read
went out
that,
this
take a look
morning
at
with
that.
some
That went
updates
out to
on
Heritage
prom,
Parents
senior honors night, and
this
commencement.
morning. We've been getting an awful lot of phone
School
calls,
choice
both to my
window,
office and to the
we
high
had
school
cabinet
office
meeting this morning
about if there are any more
we're thinking
updates
we
on that.
probably will
Obviously,
need
those
to
things
shift
are
May
still
school
up in the
choice
air with the
window
governor's orders,
for
and
two
we have no
reasons.
idea
First
what
of
this
all, we don't
summer's going
have
to look like. So
people in the
if you
building
didn't
for
read
parents
that,
to
take
pick
a
up
look
the
at that. That
packets
went out to Heritage Parents
to apply for school
this
choice.
morning.
And
There's a significant
school
part in
choice
there where
window,
they go and have
we had
the cabinet
school
meeting
choice
this morning.
packets signed by the current school
We're thinking we
administration
probably will need to
relative
shift
to the
our
discipline that
May
they've had in
school
their
choice
current
window.
district for
Obviously,
two reasons.
nobody's in
First of
those
all, we don't have
districts either.
people
So
in
we're
the
thinking
building
if we
for parents
shift
to pick
that
up the
back,
packets
we're looking at like a May
to apply for
19th to
school
June
choice.
2nd window.
And there's a
And
significant part in
having a
there where they
singular
go
pickup
and
point
have
for
the
the
school
packets in our
choice
district
packets signed by their
through the
current
community ed
school
office.
administration.
And then thinking
Relative
of
to the
having
discipline that they've had in their
parents
current
sign
district.
an affidavit,
Obviously, nobody's
basically
in those districts
stating that
either.
their child has
So we're
not had
thinking if we shift
suspensions and
that back,
expulsions.
we're looking at
And
like a
knowing
May
that
19th
it'll be
to
obviously
June
stated
2nd
right on
window.
there. And
If
when things
having
open
a
back up and
singular
we start
pickup
getting
point for
CA60s
these
from other
packets in our
districts,
district,
if we
through
find
the
that there
community ed
are
office
significant disciplinary
and then
issues,
thinking of
and
having
basically the parent wasn't truthful
parents
with
sign
us on the
an
affidavit, that we reserve the
basically
right to send the
stating
student
that
back
their
to their
child has
home
not
district.
had suspensions
So
and expulsions.
based on all the
And knowing that
turmoil
it'll
going
be
on and things
obviously
we
stated
stated
right
right on
probably
there,
our best bet.
if when
We know
things
there are
open
parents
back
that
up
are
and we
wanting
start
to
getting
apply
CA60s
for
from other
school choice
districts,
because they're
if
calling.
we find that there are
and so
significant
we're
disciplinary
thinking
issues,
we want to
basically
implement
the
a
parent
system.
wasn't
It just
truthful
may
with
look like
us
it
on the
gets pushed
affidavit,
back
that we reserve
by
the
2
right to
weeks for
send the
that
student back
window.
to their home
Then we would
district.
still have
So
the
based on
regular
all
window
the
in early
turmoil
August
going on and things,
in
we
that
think
very
that's
short
probably our
window the
best
first
bet.
week of school.
We know there
So
are parents
I
that
think
are
we can
wanting to
accomplish everything we
apply
need to
for school
accomplish,
choice because they're
but with the
calling.
stay-at-home order being
And
extended,
so if we
we're
bump
thinking
it,
we want
that window
we
just
want to
past
implement a
that
system. It just may
to the
look like it gets
19th
pushed
and
back
open that up
by
hopefully
2
in a
weeks for
better
that
spot by
window.
then.
Then we would
would still have the regular window in early August. Obviously, and that very short window. Probably starting to hear about huge concerns. I think we can accomplish everything we need to accomplish, but with the stay-at-home order that are extended, that are really sinking that window just particular ship, or the lack of sales tax revenue and open that created in the state. Obviously, people aren't out spending money. Hard to tell. And then the lack of income tax revenue. Obviously, because people are probably starting to hear about huge concerns about next year's budget. Those are the two bigger things that feed into the school that are really sinking this particular ship. Are the lack of sales tax in our last couple of meetings to obviously look at anything possibly from and then minus $250 per student cut because people are take care of the entire jobs are being deficit that they're anticipating a minus 1,000 a student bigger things that feed into the school.
I have just
Well, I have to say, oh, go ahead, Marion.
okay, just a couple thoughts. Number one, what are we doing with graduation then as far as Mackinac? I mean, will that be part of an overall plan to be doing something for them as well? And then the other thing is having to, I've been watching pretty much most of the Governor Cuomo press conferences during the day. And one of the things that came up really early on was the loss of funding from the state, exactly what people were talking about, and that the hope that that somebody else had mentioned that there would be federal funds that would come to help supplement, make up that gap, because they're talking obviously several millions and millions of dollars there. So I'm thinking that that is something from a legislative perspective at the federal level that they're going to be looking for.
Correct. Yeah, we're waiting for some more information. The state has their dollar figures on what the state's going to get from the Federal CARES Act. We just don't know how much of that we're going to see in Saginaw Township. It's going to be based upon the Title I allocation. So the districts that obviously are more needy are going to get more CARES Act money, and those who don't necessarily need it won't see much at all. So we were superintendents and board members on the MASB webinar today with the legislatures. We're pretty frustrated that yet again we don't have any answers on how much. Are we looking at $1,000 or $100,000? That'll help us significantly with planning, and we're just not getting any answers yet. In regard to your first question about Mackinac, yes, Mackinac is being treated the same. I've been working with Alan, and he's been communicating that to his parents and his kids, that their session is being postponed. They're the first part of June, and that they'll be part of whether we can reschedule it and hold it later, whether we do something virtually. All those options are currently on the table.
And are we keeping contact with our local government? Because there's a little bit of, I read the newspaper today that they're interviewing for township manager. And Mitch Reno just passed away. Those were two strong voices in Saginaw Township. So I'm just wondering, in terms of funding coming in for Saginaw Township on its own, and maybe there's a way to be part of.
Sure. Yeah, I know they were interviewing for a new township manager, and I'm hearing rumblings we might be looking for a police chief before too long. I don't know if he's got another year or two or what he has, but so there'll be some turnover at the township office. I stay in pretty close contact with them. I believe they're waiting to hear what their funding might look like from the feds too, just like we are. But I'll certainly keep them in mind and see what we can do together.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Jan, you had a question?
Well, I just wanted to tell Jamie, my daughter with the 4 of her children is taking advantage of the paper packets. And so last Monday and today, she went to get them for 3 of them. One is doing everything online, but the paper packets have worked out great. As a matter of fact, I had the kids today. I finally told them that they could come to my house for the first time forever. And we sat down and worked on paper packets. So they're doing really well. And I was very impressed with them. And then as far as food goes, my Katie, my daughter, says to me, Mom, we picked up the paper packets and the kids said, well, let's go through the food line. Kate says, I felt so bad. I said, you can go through the food line. So Janine, my daughter was so impressed with what those kids got in those bags. She says, oh, Mom, you have to tell them at the meeting tonight. I cannot believe what they got in those bags.
Oh,
so I just wanted you to know.
Thank you. God bless Wendy. We had grilled cheese 2 weeks ago, and Sunday night was printing off the directions to the grilled cheese.
Yes, they had directions for their little hamburgers today.
Yes. They're doing a great job. They really are.
Yeah, they're doing a wonderful job.
Yes, full new appreciation. Yes.
The food program and the effort and the execution should be an incredible source of pride for the district throughout this. And we should be proud of that. And we should be proud of Heritage's recognition. For different reasons, the district is getting recognition. And the community should be incredibly proud of all the people, all the employees of the district, the administrators who are bending over backwards during difficult conditions to try to make the lemonade out of lemons. So huge thank you to everyone involved.
And
Absolutely.
I'm sitting here with ants in my pants because I have two significant announcements to make that are currently embargoed and I'm not allowed to make them yet. And once you hear them, you'll be even prouder. So please know there's more great news coming. I wish I could leak it to you, but I'm not allowed to. So stay tuned.
So that's a teaser. That's a teaser. I want to know now.
It's trying to bring the crowd back for the next monthly meeting.
Right. I wasn't going to come, but now.
And Bruce,
I'm sorry. Hey, Bruce. One thing, I guess in the back of I just wrote it down. In the back of your mind, I know there's a ton of things going on right now, but maybe in the back of your mind, we can maybe start developing a list or start getting some idea of some kind of recognition we can get for all these folks that are going above and beyond in this difficult time. You and Jamie know much more than any of us, what that list would entail, but just something to think about as we move forward, because, at some point we'll come out of this, and at some point the kids will be back in school. And, when those kinds of things kind of calm down, I think it'd be great to show some kind of appreciation for just how far above and beyond so many people have gone to really make us proud of this district, as David had said. Just something to think about. And I did have one last question. Bruce, sure. I think I emailed you. I can't remember if I emailed David, maybe too. I had about 4 or 5 parents contact me about grades and whatnot as part of this learning plan. Have you guys been hearing that also? And what's the response been? What's the company response that we should give?
Were you able to see? I believe I sent out an email to the board members probably 2 weeks ago with kind of the breakdown of our thought process and the input we had from Michigan Department of Ed. We heard that pretty strongly in the beginning, and that was Mike Newman echoed that he was getting emails and questions too. I know Jamie and I spent quite a bit of time answering individual questions. Since then, it seems to have calmed down. I haven't heard anything since, so I don't know if they're really upset with my response and planning their next move, or if it turned into an agree to disagree. At least they know there was thinking behind it, and they don't agree with it, but they're letting it go.
Yeah.
It's hard telling.
And the 5 I've heard from, I think 4 of them were actually after that communication went out. That's kind of why I asked. I saw what the communication was, and then I got about 4 more calls after that, but I haven't had much since that initial barrage of calls after communication went out. So I think, and that was the general attitude, is just kind of agree to disagree, disappointment, but understanding of the situation. So I just didn't know, what you guys had heard after the communication.
Well, and it wasn't very clear, Eric. When I read it, it wasn't very clear.
Right.
There was
right. The first one, I think you sent out another one that kind of clarified things, at least to the board you did. But yeah, for the initially, when you read the communication, I don't think it specifically says that students cannot get a grade. Kind of leaves a gray area, and there's a lot that's left up to the student and whatnot. So, but I was just curious.
Yeah, that's been something I've been hearing around the county. We all are on a credit, no credit basis with our high schools. I heard from one parent that Cranbrook down in, Birmingham, was doing letter grades. I'm not sure how they figured out how to do that, but they're in a different clientele with, they're able to manage that equity piece a little bit differently than we can. But in talking on our state superintendent listservs and others, that's all we're seeing is credit, no credit. The 2 gals from Governor Whitmer's office a couple of weeks ago, she sits on the National Commission of Universities and Colleges, and said that they had just met, and basically the universities and colleges have agreed that the spring of 2020 is going to be a non-factor when they're looking at admissions, scholarships, all those kinds of things. My daughter's in college, and they're hearing the same thing from their university, that this whole semester is just going to be a wash. They're going to basically consider the other 7 semesters or basically 6 semesters because they don't look at the spring of your senior year. Instead of making those decisions on 7, they'll make them on 6 because there's just no way to even be able to judge what an A against a B, against a credit, against a pass. It's just fallen victim to the circumstance. So most of the folks that have been upset that I'm hearing from, it's about that college piece that they've been worried about.
Yeah, there's a couple that have mentioned the competition for valedictorian and all that kind of thing, but most are concerned about the college piece. Yep.
Sure, I understand that.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yep.
When you're talking about recognition of people, just an idea, the people that are putting the packets together, the Sandy Redfields of the world at Heritage, that kind of thing, that's a big task. So that's kind of a side note. And then secondly, I've been working with a little bit with Missy and Anne-Marie Ray on an alternative for prom. And so I did let Bruce know this. We have a Zoom meeting on Wednesday, just to see if there's something else that we can do if and when, if it's lifted on May 15th, even if it's small groups, is there an alternative to help make memories for our juniors and seniors? So that's in the works. We're seeing a lot of the smaller districts do signs in their communities, with their seniors. Freeland's has a GoFundMe page to do that. Caseville's done it, some other smaller districts. Obviously, we're too big to do that. But if anybody has seen a good idea, or anything, please pass it along of maybe, what other districts are doing for their seniors. So
we are actually working on, we met with the high school administrative team also, and we were talking about also, how do we do this? How do we recognize the 300 and something kids that are graduating this year? So I think that a lot of people are working on that, and we know we want to do something to recognize those kids and make them feel special for the accomplishments that they've had, and the fact that they are, going to miss this huge milestone in their life if we're not able to have commencements. So so a lot of thinking is going into this too.
Thank you. Yes.
Eric, kind of going back to your pass fail, they've been given the option at one of the schools where I teach, pass no credit. But that's a whole different ballgame, because then you're looking at more than $1,000 that they paid for a class, and over the past 5 weeks that we've been off online, some students have done absolutely nothing, and but the majority of those also didn't really do anything in the prior 10 weeks. But they're going to be given that option of no credit. But that's going to easily be $1,000, and then tack on at least another $500 for the books. So it's a pretty substantial. Do they take a D, for which they would have to take the class again, or do they take the no credit? So it's
wow. Yeah, there's definitely financial impact, but I can tell you, I know a couple of families who had kids that go to Cranbrook. It's much cheaper than Cranbrook.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, to address the concern of some parents about the college admissions issue, at least it's my understanding that the decision that was made by the administration on grading is that there will be grades posted to the transcript with third marking period that are what the grades were as of the date of closure. And while for the semester, it's credit, no credit, and there will be no impact on GPA, colleges will get an idea of whether the students were succeeding and to what extent during the semester. And, while it's not part of the calculation, they're going to see whether there was consistency during the time period, even though it doesn't.
Right. Yep. Understood. And I think in the communication that was sent out, Doug did a good job of summarizing that part. And the people I've talked to, I've told them exactly that. They will get a letter grade for the third quarter marking period, but just not for that second semester. So, yep.
And not that anybody would need to be reminded of this time in U.S. history, really, and world history, but their transcript will be coded also with COVID-19 right on their transcript for this part.
Wow.
Not that colleges will need to be reminded that that's why they have credit, no credit.
Right.
But it will have right on their transcript. COVID-19 will be right on there.
Wow.
Jamie, this is an odd question. Do you have any idea, AP testing, if, I probably won't say this very eloquently, but if colleges and universities will lower their standards to accept that credit?
I haven't heard a lot about that, but I know that College Board is creating a test that I have not seen it yet. I'm interested to see how they're going to do this, but they are creating a test that they can take online at home. And this is how much everybody is making these accommodations for this time, not just us, but everyone. College Board is changing their AP tests from approximately 3 hours to about a 45-minute test that they can do online at home. So it's impacting everything in all grades, all courses, all exams, assessments, everything. So.
And Janine, I don't know where I heard it, whether it was a conversation with Bruce or someone else, but it was my understanding that the College Board was, in grading those 45-minute exams, was loosening their standards as well, in recognition of the fact that there wasn't a full year of learning.
Right.
Exactly.
That's okay.
And they're only testing the students on material through mid-March. They're not going to test them on what they would normally get in April and May, because they know that's been turned upside down. So yeah, the IB exams were completely erased and everybody got a passing score, but the AP modified their test to a 45-minute online test with, as David said, very generous grading.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Bruce or Jamie before we move into some of the agenda items?
Maybe Eric, he's on mute. I see his mouth moving.
Yeah, I was just giving some instruction to one of the kids. They were walking by.
Sorry. Okay.
Homeschooling.
Yep.
Okay. Bruce, you want me to move through the other items or do you want to take the lead?
Either way.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me flip over to that screen. We have an expulsion that we have not heard from parents after numerous attempts. And so we're just going to move forward without an appeal and bring that to you for action.
Okay, is there a motion for the expulsion of student A?
I move that due to a level, oh gosh, Roman numeral, great. 4?
Correct.
Thank you. Violation of the White Pine Middle School Student Code of Conduct for assault student to student. The Board of Education expel student A. Support.
Any discussion?
I really knew it was 4.
She was asking my kids, hey,
Eric, roll call, please.
David Jaffe?
Yes.
Janine Coughlin?
yes.
Jan Collison?
Yes.
Mike Palucci? You're on mute,
You're
Mike.
muted, Mike.
Yes.
Marianne Berg?
Yes.
Tony Duncan?
Yes.
Eric Smith? Yes.
All right, thank you. Next item, we have an approval of a policy waiver resolution. I will let you do a motion in a second, and then a discussion. I'll explain what this means.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I will. I move that the Board of Education approve the attached policy waiver resolution.
Is there a second?
Support.
Second.
Go ahead, Bruce.
All right, this came from Troon Law Firm after the last extension from Governor Whitmer, which would be the second extension, not the one from a couple days ago. And this is a resolution that Troon put together for all districts in Michigan, basically stating there are all kinds of small details in our huge board policy packet that may be in conflict with the governor's executive order. And rather than going through with a fine-tooth comb and finding all 75 of those, this is kind of a blanket resolution that says, if there are any spots in our current board policy that are in conflict with the governor's executive order, they will be null and void until the governor's executive order expires. So, for instance, I was going through the other day looking for something else, and we have a policy that says all students will participate in the annual M-STEP, SAT, and PSAT testing. That's right in one of our policies. So obviously there is no M-STEP, PSAT, SAT testing this year. So that would be a place where the governor's executive order would override our policy. So this is a blanket resolution that just kind of catches all those things and says if something comes up, the executive order outweighs that. I got in and doctored that a little bit so that it didn't give didn't give unending authority to the superintendent to play with policy, just to say through June 11th, which is our last day of formal instruction. And then after that, the board can either rescind that resolution or extend it if it needs to, based on what the circumstances are at the time. So that's what that resolution is all about. It came straight from Troon.
Any questions for Bruce on the resolution or discussion?
Nope.
Okay, roll call, please.
Eric Smith, yes. Tony Duncan?
Yes.
Mary Ann Bird?
Yes.
Mike Palucci?
Yes.
Jan Collison?
Yes.
Janine Coughlin?
Yes.
David Jaffe?
Yes.
All right. Next item is the first reading of policy 7630. These are graduation requirements. It was recommended by the Michigan Department of Ed that we revisit our graduation requirement policy to make sure that seniors had all possible leverage and benefit in light of the situation to pass. And so after you move in second, I'll give you a couple of details on that.
I'll take this one. It is our recommendation that the attached policy revisions be adopted.
Second.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Okay, you'll notice in your packet, if you roll down to the very end, there is a section in red that says, it speaks to the Michigan Merit Curriculum. Strict compliance has been waived for our graduating seniors. Additionally, you may be aware that all of our graduating students must have half a credit in civics. And because of the COVID-19 shutdown, that has been waived. And then another piece that we're required to make known in our policy is that if there were students that were failing a course at the time of school closure, they have to be given an opportunity to demonstrate learning in that course through the district's determination of what that might be to give them credit for the course. And so I took that right from the Department of Ed. They wanted to make sure that our policy reflected that. And so I'm asking for a revision on that, a temporary revision. And then after this situation is over, then that would resume back to its normal wording.
So then what are we doing for the kids who may have been failing the course? Have we identified them and given them other materials to work on?
Yes, Mike Newman, Brian Blaine, and the counselors at the high school have done an audit of all of our seniors to see where they were as of closure. Teachers are contacting those students who had a failing grade at that point and might be in danger of not graduating. And then we're looking at a number of different things. From a portfolio, the student can present a portfolio of different works that may show that they deserve to pass the class. Some teachers are coming up with a test, kind of a summary of where we were as of closure, and see if the student can get a passing grade on that. Their projects have been put together as an opportunity for students to do a project to demonstrate their learning. So there are a couple of different ways that we're giving those kids an opportunity to prove that they deserve to pass so that they can graduate. And if there's a point at which it's questionable, they're on the bubble, the state has told us by all means to give them the benefit of the doubt and make sure they graduate. So I don't have feedback yet from Mike and Brian because we're just starting our second week. Feedback yet on what that percentage might be and how many of those kids will take advantage of that.
Okay.
Bruce, why is civics highlighted specifically?
It's just one of the state graduation requirements that all the kids have to have. And they were worried because some of our students take that in 11th and some take it in 12th grade. They were worried that some kids might have postponed that until the spring of their senior year and all of a sudden get caught short. So they've asked us to make sure we highlight that specifically. Yes, I think what you're intending is there are a number of different graduation requirements, but that was the one in particular, mainly because most seniors follow a traditional stepping stone of courses, but that civics one tends to get bumped around depending on their schedule. So
sophomores and juniors who might be enrolled in civics this semester, they're not going to have to retake the course. They would also get credit, correct?
Correct. This is just for a senior who might be short because they waited until this last semester to take it, and now they might get caught without a passing grade in that class. So we're supposed to give it to them. Yep.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Jamie, how many recovery teachers do we have? That's probably the wrong terminology, but like Cam Martuzzo, that kind of thing, that are helping these kids, to get credit recovery or class recovery?
Go ahead, Bruce.
No, at this point, for these seniors trying to get to graduation, basically all of our teachers at the high school are recovery teachers. Yes. They're all taking on that role to get them through to graduate. As far as our traditional summer recovery, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have 2 that work specifically in the credit recovery program through the summer for kids that are wanting to catch up, and some want to work ahead and some are trying to make up for credit they lost.
Are we going to do summer recovery at all for anything, or is it just going to be a carte blanche?
Well, we're really working on that right now, but I don't see how we would how it would stop us from being able to do that, because we use Edgenuity, which is what Mackinac uses as their online curriculum. So a lot of our credit recovery is done online anyways. We were just talking today about what if they have to come in, if things are if some of the restrictions are lifted again, then we could spread them out as long as they have a Chromebook between, the computer lab, the cafeteria, the student center, things like that, so that we can continue on with credit recovery. I would hate to not be able to allow a student to make up some credits and stop them from graduating. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure credit recovery happens again this summer. And because it is so dependent on an online program, it really shouldn't be too hard to figure out. So the plan is to continue with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So Bruce, this is a first reading. Normally a first reading would occur at a committee of the whole meeting, and we would adopt or vote on it at the regular meeting that follows. Are you looking for us to vote on the motion and second now?
No, I'm looking at we'll do a second reading and a vote at our May 11th or 18th, depending on what we do with that. Probably the May 18th. That'll still give us plenty of time for those kids to graduate. So.
Okay, so there's no reason to vote on the motion that's been made or seconded.
Well, just to approve it as a first reading, yeah, I guess. So, however you want to handle that.
Okay.
It's on record that we've done a first reading, so we should be fine to go to May for the second reading and a vote.
Okay, very good. Then we'll move forward. You got a couple of other things on your agenda.
Yeah, good clarification. Go back to the top of the agenda here. We have Teacher Appreciation Week, May 4th through the 8th. Wanted to get that on your calendars, and right in the middle of that is National School Nurse Day. Carol Mackey, we're going to be celebrating her on May 6th. I'm hearing an awful lot of conversation with MASA, the Superintendent Association, and also MASB with school boards, stating, boy, if you've ever done anything for teacher appreciation, now's the year to take it over the top based on what they've had to do on a very short period of time and completely change the way they're instructing and connecting with kids. So I wanted to put that out there. I'm certainly open for ideas and suggestions. Obviously this year is going to be trickier than ever. It's not the kind of thing where I can deliver dozens of donuts to all the teachers' lounges throughout the district, and because nobody's around. So ways we can do that are probably, you know, revolve around social media and press release and those kinds of things. But I'm certainly open for suggestions if you have some creative things we can do when everybody's working from home. But just wanted to put that out there. They've just done a phenomenal job with not only the helping us develop the plan, but implementing the plan. And for the first week to go so smoothly without any major issues is a real testament to the work they've done and how seriously they've taken this. So we're very pleased. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Bruce? Well, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is adoption of board negotiating agents. Is there a motion there?
I'll go ahead and take it. I move that the Board of Education appoint the negotiation teams and chief negotiator as listed in attachment A. The chief negotiator, with the assistance of the bargaining team, is fully empowered to reach tentative agreement with each respective employee group and the parameters established by the Board of Education. Such tentative agreements must be ratified by the Board of Education to become part of the collective bargaining agreement.
Is there a second?
Support.
Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Marianne Bird,
Yes.
Jan Collison,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Janine Kaufman,
Yes. Thank you, honey. I'm sending my husband text.
Eric Smith, yes, David Jaffe.
Yes. Okay, we've reached the point of our meeting where we welcome public comments. You know, usually those who wish to address the board would step to the podium, but I don't see a square on the screen for a podium. So with our need to hold our meetings remotely, we're going to handle public comments through submission of form that can be found on the district website at stcs.org. At the top of the website, there's a link where you can find the form for submitting comments. I've seen a few comments which I will share. And we'll take, while we do that, we'll take about 3 minutes to give people an opportunity to fill out that form and submit it if they want to. I'll note beforehand that it's not the practice of the board to respond to each comment provided. We appreciate the time taken to share thoughts with us, and we ask the superintendent to follow up as necessary on each comment. So if anyone who's on the live stream wants to submit a comment, they can find the form at the district website. In the meantime, we received several comments both before and during the meeting, none of them substantive in nature. The first comment asked when the Google handout for tonight's meeting would be posted, and I know that both Jim Mitchell and I responded to that via email so that that individual could pull up the stream. And then we got 2 comments that the audio for the meeting was not working well. That it was, the audio seemed to repeat itself. And it appears that the audio problems were caused by a dual feed during the first half of the meeting. And it looks like Jim was able to fix that for the second half of the meeting. So I would like to thank the members of the community who posted those comments for us. And hopefully the second half of the meeting, if you stuck with us throughout the whole meeting, was easier for you to listen and more tolerable to follow along. And if nothing else, when we have our next board meeting in next month in May, we'll know about the dual feed issue, and that issue will be eliminated for the next meeting. This is a learning process for all of us. This is the first time the board has had to do a virtual meeting, so certainly apologize for any audio technical difficulties. But we're working hard to get it right.
May I make a comment, David?
Sure.
I'd like to note the passing of Mary Ray Stelter, who was a longtime secretary and an absolutely wonderful woman, graceful, classy, and she was at Weiss School for a long, long time. And obviously her husband, Ron Stelter, was our golf coach and taught at Douglas MacArthur High School. But she was a wonderful, wonderful woman and did a lot for our district. And I wanted to make a note on her passing last week.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm just waiting about 30 more seconds to see if we get any comments, and if not, we'll move on. And certainly if we get any comments after the fact, I will make sure that those are circulated to the board so that the board will see those comments even if they come in after we've moved on in the agenda. But I don't see any other comments have come in, so we'll move on. And I'll entertain a motion to move into closed session. Go ahead, Janine.
I move that we move into closed sessions for strategy negotiations connected with a collective bargaining agreement.
Your support?
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jan Collison,
Yes.
Mike Colucci,
Yes.
Miriam Bird,
Yes.
Tony Duncan,
Yes.
Janine Coughlin,
Yes.
David Jaffe,
Yes.
Eric Smith, yes.
Okay, for anyone who's watching on the YouTube stream, the board's going to move into closed session now for the purpose of discussing strategy negotiation sessions connected with collective bargaining. And so I'm going to ask Jim Mitchell to please shut down the live stream of the meeting because this portion of the meeting is not open to the public. We'll just give them about 30 seconds to do that.